chambers, we have Councilmember Monica Peters and Councilmember Cyril Jefferson. Member Michael Holmes will be absent today. We have 3 items on our agenda today. First will be an update on our Catalyst Socialist, yes, I have not said that right yet in a month. Catalyst Social District.
Yeah, let's be clear. Let's be clear.
Greg Ferguson.
Good morning. At your places, you have a map that shows the current boundaries of the Catalyst Social District as adopted by City Council. Just to go back over the basic premises here is it includes city property, which is sidewalks and the plaza. It doesn't include any private property. So the yellow lines and the yellow hatched areas are the areas that are included in the district. As you recall, the council asked that there be a connection from the Condon Yards corner near Appling Way to the right field gate at the baseball stadium, so that was added. In the meantime, your map is blue, our other map is yellow, but they're the same routes, so the one up on the screen is in blue. Ryan is going to go through some of the signage that's been worked up for the district, and these will be used in a variety of ways. There is a entry sign, so when you enter the district, you'll have to see this sign as you come in to know that you're in the district. They'll have a link to the map and to the website there, the QR code, and then the basic rules are on the bottom there, giving the times and the dates. So those will be the entry signs. We're still working through the locations of those and trying to make them very visible. This is the exiting sign. So it'd be similar locations on the edges of the district. The difficulty, as you may know, is when it's just a sidewalk, is kind of at the end of the sidewalk or exiting into the street. So there's not sometimes a natural location for that sign to be placed. So there's also signage or logo. This is the logo for a store that's participating. So that would be kind of the sticker or logo that they would use on their establishment. The Visit High Point is going to work with the businesses that are participating to get them stickers for cups. The businesses that are participating will be responsible for their name and logo on their cup. So they'll have their own cup, their logo, and then they'll have to use a sticker that indicates they're part of the Catalyst District. This is the sidewalk signage. This will be a round sticker. It says stay on the sidewalk, indicates you're in the district. We'll have these around the area. Ryan is working on with that, and Ryan actually designed the logo, so we'll say
beautiful.
Congratulations to doing some good work on that.
I like that stay on the sidewalk.
Figured that might help.
And we have this is the map that gives you direction about, this is state law that says drink responsibly B21. That's exactly what it's got to say in the logo district. And then the time there as well. And so this map will be produced, and we don't know how many we'll have of these, but we're going to have some of these in the district as well. So you can see. Posted.
Yeah. So we worked with transportation. The entry and exit signs will obviously be located here at the entry and exit over here by the stadium, coming into the stadium. And then these signs will be posted throughout the district as well to kind of help enforce those boundaries along with these entrances. So some of these will be printed and posted by transportation.
Some of the other moving parts in setting up the district is the cup disposal. So we're working right now with Public Services to locate the appropriate number and locations for cup receiving stations. And I'm not calling them trash cans because they're not trash cans. We want them to be placed in their own receptacle. These cups are not recyclable, so we're not encouraging recycling in the recycling bins. The other thing we're trying to work through is the number of bins or collection facilities that we'll need. We don't really know. It's going to be kind of a guess to start. We're certainly going to have some around the plaza area and up the street near Plank Street. We really will just have to kind of play that by ear. There's various designs, but what we would like to find is a design that allows the cup to be placed in the container, and then someone's arm can't get back in there and fish it out, or somebody else's. It's kind of the logistics of it. Public Services is going to take the lead on cup dumpster removal. We're still working through the weekend logistics. We've talked with the food hall and the Elliott Sidewalk folks about that, and there's going to be some collaboration with them doing some of the weekend maintenance of the plaza and taking care of the cup disposal as well.
Now, Greg, what is the cup made out of?
It's just a plastic cup.
Just a plastic cup, okay. Now, they'll have to throw a cup away every time they leave one place before they go in another place? Or can they keep that cup like the whole night and then throw it away at the end?
If they leave a ABC permittee and stay within the district, they don't need to throw the cup away.
Okay,
But if they leave the district or they are about to enter another ABC permittee, they've got to dispose of the cup and get something else from that permittee.
Okay.
We have indications that the stadium's going to participate, so it'll be the same type situation. If you're in the stadium, you certainly could have a beverage there. If you attempt to leave the stadium, then they'll have to pour it into a cup that's branded with the stadium's logo, and of course you could be in the plaza. Other questions?
I recall there was something we were talking about the stadium the last time that, I can't remember what it was. They didn't have the exact same committee designation, and I'm probably saying it wrong. I think we were asking questions about that. So in terms of their participation, the boundary doesn't include the district, the stadium right now, but includes two of their entrances. As long as you walk out of those two exits, so to speak, then it can be poured into a cup and it's fine. But it's kind of the same way Plank Street's not inside the boundary, but once you walk out of Plank Street, you're in the boundary.
Same thing with Congdon Yards. You notice the parking lot is not blue, so it's private property, so the parking lot is not included, but you've got two exits or more on Appling Way that would be adjacent to the boundary. And then they'll have some future entrances and exits on the English roadside with a restaurant and other facilities.
From their location when you exit. That's why the boundary, the lines are, adjacent to and contiguous to the ABC establishment. Business as usual inside, and then outside social.
Any other questions? We've got another map. Chairman asked us to create one that attempted to get up to, not attempted, but does get up to Main Street and Wren. This is a slightly longer version of what you have already. This goes up to Paddle South and then also to the future micro winery, I believe it is, on Wren. So this would be an option for future inclusion. The steps would include the full council amending the ordinance and changing the map, and then adding any other provisions that would change the times or dates or anything like that.
I recommend this, make this effective May 21st,
Oh, as opposed to April 21st?
This is already
Oh,
in effect.
yeah, okay.
This
I
one's
gotcha.
already in effect for
Yeah,
April 1st.
right.
If we make this one in effect May 21st, that means we can modify it, make sure that we've got all things worked out, and then we can approve those really tight.
What I'm curious about, kind of with that, and I appreciate that, Chairman Hudson, that month to work out kinks, I guess the kinks are where I'm probably thinking most about, in terms of like, I mean, if all of our discussion so far has been, do we feel like crossing Main Street is safe, then I guess knowing that that intersection is, I mean, we've only got one intersection that we're targeting there. I don't know, I mean, is there a way that transportation can ascertain its feasibility of being more safe to cross there than in some other spots?
Would allow Assistant City Attorney Megan McGuire to address some of those.
Well, and I think it's the position of staff that a lot of the stuff that we've talked about with this being a new law and knowing that the General Assembly in the short session, which isn't until June, is going to be addressing revising the law to address some of the ambiguities. And then additionally, it's the ABC Commission that's undertaking the rulemaking. And so we feel that the kinks are really some of the kinks are not within our control. They're things that are going to be happening in Raleigh over the summer that we need to see how it plays out. So a May 21st, 30 days from the April 21st, we won't have any of those answers by that time to decide expanding the boundaries or how the ABC Commission would potentially do any rulemaking for the boundaries. As far as the safety aspect of it, I know that Greg has talked with transportation and that we went out there and walked it and looked at some of the ways to improve it. Again, I'm not sure with supply chain issues if any of that can be totally fleshed out in a 30-day time period. But I think it's, like we've talked about this whole kind of fact-finding mission and research time that we've done, in the coming months, it's certainly something that is doable once we have more information from both the General Assembly and from the ABC Commission. But those, kinks or issues certainly will not be worked out by May 21st. We won't have that information because it's the short session that's going to address the technical correction bill, and then the rulemaking will potentially get notice of rulemaking whenever that comes out, which we're not certain of. So I think just to recall some of the issues that we talked about in addition to public safety is that we won't have those answers by May 21st.
Right, thank you for that. So the focus of my talk here is you all went to go look at the intersection, and there's supposed to be a plan to look at improvement. I guess I'm thinking, how much time will we have to look at that ahead of that May 21st intended target date to have this approved? Because at a certain point, for that to be in effect May 21st, we will have to vote on it in advance, so that way we can be prepared to execute by May 21st, which means for us to vote on it in advance, we would need to know the information in terms of what we're doing on that intersection. And so, I don't know if I'm just working sort of reverse engineering this. Are we anticipating to recommend this for a vote on April 18th, next Monday? Is that what we're thinking?
If it's approved today, then yeah.
Okay.
We also have the option of opening it at any point. If we vote on it,
To
it's
approve
off
it.
our desk and it's up to staff. That's the intent.
Yeah.
Well-
Otherwise, we're gonna have to take another month to come back to us and go through committee again and then go to the council. If we put it on staff right now, they can make that decision, or we can recommend it.
So that we will be ready to move forward.
Or would that be without saying a date, like if we said to staff, we recommend it, but once everything happens in Raleigh in June, whenever y'all are ready, then that will be the date, and we not specify a date yet?
You could go ahead and push it forward with a favorable vote, without a specified date.
Okay.
And then allow, just for it to continue after that time and research and see what's going to happen in Raleigh, et cetera. And keep you guys abreast of all that, and then put it on council agenda.
Because to expand the map, just like Joanne said, it will have to go to council because it's adopted as an ordinance. So there will have to be an ordinance amendment to expand the map. So certainly during, in the next coming weeks, we are on top of this. We are monitoring it, and we are waiting for developments, and we are looking into, prudent actions that the city needs to take. I just don't know if having an effective date of May 21st, it doesn't seem like there's enough time for anything material to really develop during that time.
So while we've got the conversation going right now, you all talked about some of those intersection improvements. You mind just, I know none of it's concrete, but can you talk about what we're thinking about doing and when we're thinking about doing it for that intersection to be as safe as possible?
Well, I'll be real frank about Main Street. We've talked about it, but we haven't started studying it. I mean, we were focused on primarily two areas on English. One is the parallel parking or on-street parking in front of Congdon Yards. There's been a lot of work done on that. And then the other parking area was down on Cohab space for on-street parking there. So staff's been primarily working on those two areas because there's signal head modifications that have to be made there. Once we're kind of past that, then they were planning on moving up to Main Street and taking a look at it. So we haven't really, we've talked about looking at it, but we haven't gotten out there. What's been walked has been the social district area, so the current one.
Yeah, so if we're not, so part of it's looking at the whole Main Street. That I know is a much bigger task. I'm talking about just this particular intersection. I think Assistant Attorney, you mentioned that y'all went out there and looked particularly at this intersection, right?
We went up to the end of the social district. It's not like
To the end of the approved social district? So, okay, my bad. I thought I heard you say you went to look at this little part right here, so that way,
yeah, the map of the existingly approved is where we walked and talked about some.
Just the blank street.
yeah, so, if you don't mind, Chairman Hudson, kind of where I'm stuck is that, I mean, the same concern I had a month ago is just half the day in terms of us approving anything crossing Main Street. And, by conscience, right now, as it currently stands, with no idea of that crossing being made any safer, that's still my hiccup. I certainly want to include Paddle South. I think that's a business that does incredible work to attract patrons, and it's very active, and they do everything they can to be responsible and safe there. And I don't want to feel like we're penalizing them for being across a road that's a 4 or 5 lane, if you include the median, I guess, road. But I'm trying to figure out, is there any idea, even if it's, say, on the busiest times of day, is there a way for transportation to consider before this gets enacted that Main Street intersection, just this particular one that we're talking about including in the social district, is there a way to say during the busiest times that there's a way for us to improve chances of crossing that Main Street there?
It is a push-button signal, has a pedestrian crossing push button already. I'm not sure what else can be done there. We've talked lots of options, but without having a policeman stand there, I don't know anything more we can do than
Probably
already have a designated push button.
the enhancements might not be more effective, but might be more aesthetic. You can always paint and brick and do all that, but that doesn't necessarily make it safer. It might make it prettier, but unless you're putting in things that slow down traffic or make your crossing folks more visible, like an island, refuge island, or something like that, which would require NCDOT to approve it as well.
Because it's Main Street.
Yeah. And you're not going to generally have an island at an intersection.
That push button does make 3 red lights. When you push the button, it's all red lights, so that you can cross in any direction. I work there. It does work well. Crossing Main area is fairly easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so I work right there and I walk up to my bank and I actually take this intersection often and I push that button. The button takes a while before it ever changes for me to actually walk. That's the only thing. And me as a responsible walker, I probably wait for that light to change. There's other times I'm in a rush and I don't wait for that light to change. I'm not gonna say I jaywalk, But I think what I'm getting here is, if we feel like that push button feels safe enough, and that as it's currently set up, that system's set up to accommodate pedestrian traffic to make that as safe as possible, sure, I could see that. The other question that comes to mind, I guess, is just people seeing, oh, that's in the boundary, people not just walking up Main Street and then crossing at the other crosswalk that's right in front of Richardson. And I know we can't monitor everything, but in some ways, there's a reality in which people look and say, oh, well, this is all in the district, I'm just gonna walk up this way, as opposed to saying, no, you gotta go across Main Street and then walk up. You gotta go across Main Street at Church, not walk up Main Street and go across at Richardson. And that's, maybe I'm thinking too deep in the weeds, but I'm just trying to think of all the safe ways or all the ways that someone could interpret and say, well, I'm in the district, and I not just cross right here. And we're not a city, and we were in DC last month, and we saw where everyone's used to using crosswalks and all that. We're here in the South, and I feel like people don't use crosswalks. I could be wrong about that, and I know we shouldn't penalize the city for people not doing what they're supposed to do. I guess just, I don't know, these are all the things we need to say out loud, so that way we can know that we're thinking through the safety of everyone, even when they may not do everything they're supposed to do themselves, so.
Well, and then a little bit south of that on Main is Unwind, so then somebody says, well, what if I want to have my cup and walk to Unwind or to Sabrina's Art Gallery or something? So, yeah, I mean, it's going to get expansive. I don't know where you kind of,
I believe staff would be comfortable with the suggestion that was made to go ahead and approve it and leave the date and timing up to staff to work with legal and work through the issues. I think what we can do in the meantime is get the transportation staff out to really walk the route and see if there's anything that can be done that could be implemented in a fairly safe and quick manner. Nothing is happening very quickly right now, supply chain wise. So we're having issues, even including things like trash cans and certainly electrical appliances, we're having issues. So I don't want to put a time frame on it, but we can get out there and look at it.
well, I'll make a motion to approve without a time estimate and give staff the time that they need to make sure that everything's worked out.
All right, motion is second. Any further discussion on this?
Quick point of discussion, I'm guessing one of the other things we'll look at, I just realized, you've also got to cross Ren on that backside. I think Ren may just be 2 lanes. It's not 3 lanes there, is it? That's just 2 lanes?
It's one way as well.
Yeah, right. But I don't think that's a push button crosswalk, is it?
Probably 3 of them right there.
Right at Ren and Richardson. Probably opens up to 3.
And Ren goes all the way down to Huffman Paint. It's single lane from there.
We'll take a look at it.
And also, I live in Atlanta, and pedestrian scrambles are extremely popular down there. So push the button, red light changes immediately. You can walk in every direction, diagonally walk. Gives you 30 seconds, and then everything works. It is a very quick response once you push that button. I would love to see something like that as well. So there's a motion to a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next item is our annual street resurfacing discussion. Coming to the microphone.
All right, thank you. Robbie Stone, Public Services Department. I wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you about our annual street resurfacing and kind of go over some where we are with that now at this point in time. So historically, we have resurfaced 25 to 30 lane miles per year throughout the city. And that resurfacing has been primarily funded through our PAL bill funding. I think you all have in the past, over the past few years, you have increased some other allocations, so we have continued to increase that funding, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. The resurfacing cost was primarily impacted by fuel cost, As we all know, as you go to the gas pumps, we've all seen the fuel prices spike. And so that has had a negative impact on our resurfacing bids that we've received. We do, as a city, maintain just under 1,000 lane miles of streets. We opened our resurfacing bids this year in March 16th of 22. Our in-house engineer's estimate was about $3.3 million, which was basically the funding that we had on hand. We had 4 companies bid on this project, the resurfacing project, and our, as I mentioned, engineering estimate was at $3.3 million, with the lowest responsible bidder was at $4.6 million. So drastically above our engineer's estimate. And we were conservative on that estimate. We'd thrown some extra items in there just to try to give a little leeway as well. So on the right-hand side, just kind of a map of the different streets. We had about 40 different streets we were looking at throughout the city for resurfacing in our original estimate. The engineering estimate price average was about $118,000 per lane mile. With the lowest responsible bidder, that price came in at $161,000 per lane mile, which is roughly a 36% increase. So when we received these bids, we kind of sat back and said, all right, what are our options? How can we continue to provide the services, resurfacing something that's needed, and how can we continue to move forward and provide this without negatively impacting our customers? So we came up with several different options. One, let's fund the additional $1.3 million, and we know that funding is always an issue here, especially at the time that we're in. We said another option: remove streets from the current list to reduce the cost, and we did come up with a number of streets to remove. To get that overall cost back into the budgeted amount. Seek funding from other sources, whatever sources that may be that were available. We looked at postponing resurfacing until October 22 for that PAL bill disbursement. Now, PAL bill is dispersed twice per year, so it is forecasted to have another disbursement in 22. We looked at borrowing funding from the source and then reimburse for that October 22 PAL bill disbursement. Now, the issue, my initial concern with that, the PAL bill disbursement, is there's no guarantee that will, I guess at any time, there's a possibility that could be pulled back and not disbursed. And then lastly, we looked at defer resurfacing until next year. So PAL bill, as we just mentioned, the basic disbursements, it is disbursed twice a year. I did have some concern if we deferred resurfacing, would we be eligible for PAL bill disbursement in the future? I did get some correspondence back from the NCDOT, and that you can withhold PAL bill funding for up to 10 cycles, which equates typically to about 5 years, assuming that they disperse twice per year. So we would not lose any PAL bill disbursement if we deferred resurfacing. The fuel prices, as I mentioned earlier, they have a direct impact on resurfacing. One of the large items within resurfacing is the NCDOT. They publish monthly the liquid asphalt price, which is an escalating and adjustable price. A year ago, that price was $453 per ton. Now it's $667 per ton. So even though we have seen some price decreases at the gas pump, the projections for this liquid asphalt, this crude oil, are still very escalated. The U.S. Energy Information Administration, I did find an article from them talking about forecasting the Brent crude oil. They're forecasting that to fall to $89 per barrel next year. And kind of that looking at that as an average. Right now, I think today it's around $100 a barrel. It had recently gotten up to, reached $112 to $115 per barrel. So that's kind of some of the fluctuation there. Even though those prices have went down at the pumps today, I just want to mention that liquid asphalt price is still escalated and not forecasted. From what we're seeing, it's not forecasted to take those decreases that some of the other cuts we're seeing.
Back on that note, it's not forecasted to take any decreases like whatsoever, or just not anytime soon?
As we're seeing decreases like we may be seeing at the gas pumps. So the gas pump decreases, I think, are more related to the release of barrels, U.S. release of barrels. There's still a lot of concern that once we go through those, utilize the fund or the volume that was released, that these prices may increase, and then with the uncertainty of everything else that's going on in the world, that fuel prices may continue to increase. And these NCDOT prices, they're going to They're forecast, we're anticipating they're going to continue to increase. It's just a lot of risk associated with those in the resurfacing market as well. So our recommendation, and we're bringing forth here, is to negotiate bids for the following. Last year, we resurfaced, went through our normal resurfacing contract. There were 2 streets within a neighborhood, Swans Lake Drive, Swans Gate Lane, that we had not planned on resurfacing last year. We did get a lot of feedback and requests to resurface those streets last year, and we were unable to do that with the funding that was available. The direction that was given and agreed upon last year was we will make sure that those are added to the list this year. And so what we're recommending is we go ahead and add those 2 streets to the list this year. Arlington Street speed humps. That was a petition process that was brought forth to council and approved. And in order to install those speed humps, Arlington Street needs to be resurfaced as well due to its current condition. So our proposal is to resurface these 3 streets and install the speed humps for this year. We have negotiated pricing with the low bidder to do just those streets while we're moving all the other streets. Then going forward, we would look at putting out another bid in the next 10 months or so for rebidding the streets that were removed from the list this year, along with the proposed streets that we would do for next year, and those would be completed throughout the year. This year, that would be a much larger contract due to the current PAL bill funding and the additional PAL bill funding that's anticipated. And we would extend that contract time. Typically, we allow resurfacing in between markets. This we would probably extend it before the spring market and after the fall market to give them more time for resurfacing so that we're not backing ourselves into a corner to get a higher price with that shorter time frame. We would put in there the clause that they can't resurface during that couple week window of market. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please allow me to ask a quick question, and it may just be my ignorance about things, but when you turn on Swans Gate Lane, there's a sign that says something about the neighborhood being like a private neighborhood, which led me to actually believe for some reason that those roads were like privately maintained, like some of our other neighborhoods that are HOA and kind of similar. Based on what you're saying, these are not privately maintained. These
Correct.
are city-maintained roads.
Correct. Those are city-maintained streets.
Mm. Is that sign at that intersection still leaning the way it's been leaning?
I am not familiar with that sign, so we'll have to look at that.
So there's a sign, so 2 different signs I'm talking about now. So one sign, the one I just mentioned, there's a sign that when you turn on that street, it says, this is like a private community, no trespassing, yada, yada. And actually, the first time I turned on it, I was like, okay, crap, you're not supposed to be in here. Luckily, I was invited by a friend who lives there, so I was there. And then I've noticed the last 2 times visiting a friend's house that the street sign, the intersection for Lexington and Swans Gate is actually like leaning really badly. And my wife asked me, said, Cyril, this is still leaning, why isn't this fixed? And I said, I think it's because all of this is privately maintained right here, and maybe that's why. And shame on me, I didn't actually inquire about it. But if these are publicly maintained roads, I wonder about that private sign that says don't come in. And then I also wonder, can we get that street sign straightened up?
And I think I might can answer that for you as far as, so it is HOA maintained, but it is public streets, and they pay city taxes. And I think that the only reason they really do that is there's no other exit. So they just want people to know this is a private community. I think it's just for that reason that they put that. Is that correct?
That sounds like a potential answer, but
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the sign, so I can't.
Yeah.
That's a government answer if I ever heard of it. That's a potential answer.
Yeah, and I don't know if that sign, I'm not saying that sign's a bad sign,
Right.
it led me to think it was all privately maintained.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that and work with our transportation department on resetting that sign and just making sure that the other sign is adequate sign to have in that location.
And I have a question, Robbie.
Yes, ma'am.
What streets are going to be removed by adding those?
So the list, there's a,
Yeah, is there a list?
so the streets will be removed from this year. I'll just quickly run through the list if that's okay. So we had portions, and these are not from necessarily the full length of the street. There's portions. It's Johnson Street, Lake Crest Avenue, State Avenue, West State Avenue, Overland Drive, Sturbridge Avenue, Delvin Court, Lancaster Place, Yorkshire Drive, Devonshire Avenue, Elwood Drive, not Arlington, Cedro Drive, Dartmouth, Anaheim, Edinburgh, Waterford,
Those
Mansion,
will all be removed?
all from this
Okay.
current year. Yes.
Okay.
But all those are going to be carried over to next year. We'll move
Okay.
those forward to the next year contract, along with hopefully a whole nother list just that large added to that.
Okay, because I was just on Overland yesterday, and the trucks were there, and they were doing some stuff underground, the stormwater stuff, and they were saying that that's getting resurfaced.
And this has not been,
Okay, 'cause that street
because we're
is
bringing
really
this forward.
bad.
Because we're bringing this forward
Okay.
now, we want to talk about it internally here before we, disperse this to the media, our internal folks, our frontline folks as well, too.
Well, I'd recommend somebody go out to Overland and just drive it, because it's way overdue, and I've not really said anything about it, because it's in my neighborhood, and I don't want to, but it is way overdue, and if somebody would just take a drive out there and see it, Overland and Trafalgar actually, but Overland is really bad.
Oh, you're
So-
saying Overland?
Overland.
I thought you were
Yeah.
saying Oberlin for a while.
No,
I was about to say,
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's really bad.
My country slang, sorry.
Huh?
My country slang, I
No,
guess.
no, you're good, because Oberlin's over off of Runyon and Cedro, and I was sorry.
Oberlin, yeah.
I was thinking of Ward 1 for a second.
Right, but many of these streets that were named are needing a lot of work, and we definitely acknowledge that. We just feel that based on the increase in pricing, that it may be best to withhold for a year. If prices do stabilize, that we'll be able to provide more for our customers and citizens next year, with the assumption and hopes that prices do stabilize.
Can we get a list of all the streets that are on the list to be resurfaced?
Sure.
For this year?
And then also, last point here, we would utilize our in-house resurfacing crew for smaller patch jobs throughout 2022. You mentioned the project you saw, so I'm sure our in-house crews will come back and make the patch there. There may be some areas that need some base repair, so that below the asphalt, the subgrade has failed. So we'll probably utilize those folks to come in and dig that up and make that patch. And there may be an existing patch there that's not the most aesthetically pleasing point, but it will help stabilize that road and hold it over until next year, until the resurfacing can occur. All right. That's all I have for this, unless you all have any more questions.
Need any action from us?
I'd say no action, just if you agree with our delaying, that's just your support in that.
Well, I'd like somebody to take a look at Overland, please, just to see it for yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Stone.
Thank you.
Our last item is an update on our sign ordinance. And I see Heidi Galante coming up.
Good morning. This is just a very brief update. As you may recall, we met last July and we gave a detailed presentation on the draft of the sign ordinance. The purpose of today is just to give you a very brief update on the timeline. Staff is currently preparing to post a public review draft of the sign ordinance in early May. We will have the document and a comment form available on the project website for people to look at the document and submit comments. We are planning to hold a public drop-in session in mid-June. This will be a very short presentation at the beginning, and the main purpose will be to hear from the folks to answer questions that they may have on the draft. We plan to leave the public comment period open till the end of June. Then we will review all of the comments received, see if there are changes that need to be made, and if there are, then we will have to take those changes through yet another legal review to be sure that we're in compliance with the content neutral laws. And then, once we have a public review draft, we will repost that and have that available for the public to look at, and then take that through the adoption process with the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. We don't have a timeline for that because it will all be dependent on the number of changes that are needed and the time that it will take to go through another review. And that's really all I have. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Well, I do have a quick question. So when do you think that we can actually adopt it?
That will be dependent on how many comments we
Okay.
receive, if changes are needed, and if another legal review is needed. So, that, again, it will just depend.
Maybe 30 to 90 days?
Uh,
Okay. I know
Likely not.
Hey, and Heidi, I'm sure you're dying for it to be adopted too, to
Yes.
move on from the
Yes,
sign
I
stuff.
am. It's been 4 years. It's been a
Yeah, I
long
know,
4
it's
years.
been a long time. Well, thank you so much for all your hard work on
Yes,
that. Really.
but thank you very much.
If there's nothing else, anything further to come from, if not, we are adjourned. Thank you all.